Welcome to the Lure of Temptation. Each story is a personal encounter with weakness, through which each person will rise up to escape the traps of temptation around, and today we come to the topic, True Story, a family destroyed by gambling. He was a loving father, a loyal husband, until one habit tore it all apart. In just 6 months, gambling turned smiles into silence, trust into tears. This is not fiction. This is a true story of how one man lost everything, and what you can learn before it's too late. Gambling, at its core, is an ancient pursuit, woven into the fabric of society through games of chance, wagers at racetracks, and the spinning of roulette wheels. For some, it is a diverting pastime, punctuated by the occasional thrill of a small win or the harmless disappointment of a modest loss. But for others, the allure of fortune and the siren song of possibility can spiral into a destructive obsession, unraveling lives and relationships with a quiet, relentless force. This is a true story of one family's journey through hope, denial, heartbreak, and ultimately the quest for understanding in the aftermath of gambling's ruinous grip. It began, as these stories often do, with innocence. Michael, the father of 2 and husband to Julia, grew up in a family that loved games, cards after dinner, dice with friends at summer barbecues. To Michael, gambling was never a threat. It was woven into moments of joy, camaraderie, and tradition. For most of his adult life, wagers meant no more than a few friendly dollars among friends. But as years passed and pressures grew, in his job, in bills, in the quiet doubts that come to all men in middle age, what once had been harmless fun began to take on a darker hue. It was a routine business trip to Atlantic City that set the family's fate in motion. The hotel sparkled with possibility, and the casino floor pulsed with energy. Co-workers clustered around the blackjack table, drinks in hand, and Michael joined, believing himself immune to the dangerous siren call. The rush of the first win was intoxicating. For a moment, all cares slipped away. He was not a stressed-out provider or a worried father. He was a winner. Returning home, Michael felt something shift inside him. That weekend, while Julia took the children to the park, he drove to a local off-track betting parlor, just for a look. The neon lights were less dazzling than the casino, the faces more worn, but the familiar pulse of risk and reward quickened in his chest. One bet led to another. Winning fueled confidence. Losses stoked the fire to double down, to chase what was slipping away. At first, Julia noticed nothing amiss. Michael seemed busier, more distracted. But what father isn't? He claimed overtime at work, overnight shifts, key meetings. The money, the little gifts for the kids, a new piece of jewelry for Julia, clouded her suspicions. Why question a husband who was generous, who still managed the mortgage, and who smiled when he came home, even if his eyes looked a bit distant? The spiral of addiction rarely announces itself at the door. It creeps in quietly, gathering speed with every secret, every lie. Over months, Michael's losses mounted. His credit cards, once paid off regularly, now bore alarming balances. He took out a new card, then another. Desperation set in, and with it, a new willingness to hide the truth from his family. He borrowed money from co-workers, then from friends, always with promises of quick repayment after the next big win. The cracks in the foundation began to show. Julia opened a credit card statement and gasped at a charge she didn't recognize. Hundreds of dollars at a downtown casino, when Michael was supposedly working late. She confronted him, voice trembling, heart pounding. Michael lied. He covered, reassured, and minimized. But the seed was planted. Doubt festered. Days passed, then weeks. One night, a friend gently confided in Julia she'd seen Michael at the racetrack, betting heavily, far from work. The truth, impossible to ignore, hit Julia with the force of a hurricane. Her trust, her sense of security, her partnership, it all felt suddenly fragile. Michael at last confessed. He wept, promising it was under control, that he would stop, that he never meant to hurt his family. He begged for forgiveness, for time to make it right. Out of love, and a desperate hope for the man she knew, Julia agreed. They attended counseling. Michael went to Gamblers Anonymous meetings. For a while, things improved. The late nights and cash withdrawals stopped. The laughter at the dinner table returned. But addiction's grip is insidious. One lapse became two, then many. Michael found new ways to hide his gambling. Online betting accounts under false names, secret cash stashes, manipulation of family finances. The family's savings, carefully built over years, evaporated in a few brutal months. Debt collectors began calling. The house, once filled with warmth, now felt cloaked in tension and fear. Their two children, Anna and Ben, sensed the shift. The arguments behind closed doors became louder, harder to hide. Family outings ceased. Anna, then 12, stopped inviting friends over. Ben, only 8, retreated into video games, searching for a calm that no longer seemed to exist at home. It all came to a head one autumn evening. Julia, reviewing the checking account online, discovered it was empty, and nearly $2,000 overdrawn. The mortgage payment had bounced. Groceries and utility bills had not been paid. She confronted Michael once more, heartbroken, exhausted, and afraid for her family's future. His reaction was a mixture of remorse and defiance, shame and anger. Each accusation from Julia was met with a promise that this time really would be different. But trust, once broken repeatedly, is not easily rebuilt. Julia, at her breaking point, made a decision that no one ever expects to face. She asked Michael to leave. The children, bewildered and frightened, watched their father pack his bags and go. Michael moved into a small apartment across town, alone with his demons. The months that followed were marked by financial devastation. The house, now in foreclosure, was filled with silence. Julia worked 2 jobs to provide for the children. Bankruptcy loomed. Small luxuries disappeared. Anna and Ben grappled with shame and loss, struggling to understand how their secure, happy world had unraveled so quickly. Michael's story did not improve overnight. Cut off from the family he loved, he tumbled even further into addiction, chasing winds that never seemed to come. There were days when he considered calling Julia, begging for forgiveness, or telling the kids how much he missed them. But the weight of guilt and the gnawing hunger of addiction always seemed to win. For Julia, moving forward meant more than simply surviving. She sought counseling for herself and the children, determined to break the cycle of silence and fear. In time, Anna and Ben began to speak openly about their pain, their anger, their longing for the father they had lost to gambling. Gradually, the bonds between mother and children grew stronger, a fragile, hard-won resilience in the face of adversity. Michael, too, reached a turning point. Alone in his apartment, surrounded by bills and reminders of what he had lost, he finally accepted the full weight of his addiction. He returned to counseling, not to win his family back, but to learn how to forgive himself. The road to recovery was long and littered with setbacks, but step by step, Michael learned to face the root of his compulsions and to rebuild his self-worth. He found honest work, a modest job with a nonprofit. and began tentatively to make amends. Years passed. The family, though no longer whole, found a new kind of stability. Julia's resourcefulness and strength inspired her children. Anna graduated from high school, determined to study psychology and help others facing addiction. Ben flourished in sports, channeling his pain into perseverance. Michael remained in their lives, but with boundaries, visits supervised, apologies given and repeated. The slow, stumbling effort to earn back slivers of trust. Through heartbreak and hardship, one truth emerged. Addiction is never just a personal struggle. It weaves through the fabric of relationships, binding families in sorrow and, at times, in hope. For Julia, Anna, Ben, and even Michael, healing was not about forgetting the past, but learning from it, rebuilding on firmer ground and nurturing a resilience no loss could ever fully destroy. This family's story is echoed in thousands of homes, across boundaries of wealth, culture, and circumstance. Gambling, like all addictions, hides in shadows and flourishes in silence. But its greatest enemy is truth, spoken, faced, and shared. For any family touched by its devastation, the path forward is never easy, but it is always possible. And sometimes, in the ashes of what is lost, the seeds of courage, empathy, and enduring love can finally take root. Thanks for listening to my stories on the lure of temptation. If this story feels uncomfortably familiar, it's because thousands are silently going through the same. But there's still time to step back, rebuild, and reclaim what matters most. Subscribe to The Lure of Temptation to hear more untold truths, powerful transformations, and how to escape the grip of addiction. You're not alone, and every view, every share helps break the silence that gambling wants to keep.